Hi everyone, Brian here, and I'm just popping on for another quick video today. I hadn't actually intended to make a second video today, but I thought I couldn't resist this hashtag that I've discovered, which is hashtag 5 Deep Tarot Questions by Kim from Fables Den, which is a great channel name. And I'll link her original video below so that you can have a look at that. It's very well worth having a look at because she poses some very interesting questions and gives some very interesting answers as well. So I thought I'd have a go too. So I hope the lighting in here is okay for you. It's a bit dark, but I want to make sure that you can see the cards that I'm going to be showing you throughout this video. So let's crack on. So the first question of our 5 deep tarot questions is, which tarot card describes you as a reader in terms of your approaches, your worldview and your style? And I've given you a bit of a clue because my answer to this one is Temperance. And the reason that I picked Temperance is those of you who've watched my responses to Ethany's 31 Days of Tarot will remember in the response that covers question 17, I think it is, where we have to draw our own tarot card or draw a favourite tarot card. I kind of didn't really go for the favourite tarot card because it's difficult to pick a favourite, but I went for the one that I suppose I felt drawn to at the time, and it turned out to be Temperance, or art, as I drew it as. And I think the reason for that is that I mentioned either in that video or maybe in another one around the time of 31 Days of Tarot that I actually for a long time didn't really connect with Temperance, didn't really feel any real affinity with it. I found it difficult to understand what Temperance was about, what it meant, and that actually made things, sorry, let's try and get less glare, that made things a bit difficult really in terms of reading. So but now I actually really like Temperance. I think it actually says a great deal. It's a very important card to me, and I think it's because it does to some extent describe my style as a reader, which is very much to focus on how something new can be synthesized out of a tarot reading. And I'll come on to this when I answer one of the other questions, but I work on the basis that when somebody comes to me for a tarot reading, and the kind of tarot the kind of tarot work that I do is very much coaching based, they're coming with either a problem or they have some goals that they want to achieve, and the reading is really about helping them to find a way through to solutions of their own. And very often that is about synthesizing something new out of the information that they already have available to them. And so for me, Temperance is very much about that. It's about balance, it's about synthesis, it's about finding something or creating something out of disparate elements, something that can be more than the sum of the original parts, and that results in something better, more holistic, more nourishing, more useful than you had at the beginning when those elements were very separate. And so for me, that's what Temperance is about, and that's what I try to do, or try to help the reader to do in their the querent to do in their tarot readings. So in that sense, Temperance is really an important card for me. And of course, here's the Thoth deck, where it's art and it's about the alchemy of creation and mixing things together to create something new. Osho Zen, where it's called integration. And this is my first and in many ways my favourite deck, Tarot of the Old Path. And in this one, Temperance is called the guide, and is that slightly unusual looking, I don't know if you can see that very clearly, let me just turn the light down, slightly unusual looking alien creature, there we are, with a strange hairdo or something on its head. But I've always found that card kind of intriguing. And let's just get the light back up. Okay. So that is the answer to the first question. So Temperance is my pick for the card that describes me, I hope, as a reader. What is my favourite card to see, or what is your favourite card to see in a spread, either for your, or in a reading, either for yourself or for someone else? For me, that is the Six of Swords. And the reason for that is I know that the Six of Swords can sometimes come across as a bit negative, if you like. So here in Osho Zen it's called the burden. But also for me, sixes numerologically mean the beginning of reordering and progress after some disruption, the disruption of fives. And so yes, although it can mean difficulty, and this deck is called Tarot of the Stars, it's called difficulty, but in many decks it is very much about safe passage. It's about moving on to a safer, better place, usually with guidance and support. This is from Marielle. That's a beautiful image. And a similar feel in the Spiral Tarot. I've mentioned this one before. I think it's a very moving image. Here you have the figure in the boat being guided by an angel to that tiny little light at the other side of the lake, or the or wherever whichever body of water they're crossing. And for me, that's very much what it's about. It's about moving on from a difficult circumstance into something new. And so when that appears in a reading, I always think of it as very encouraging. I think of it reminding the querent that they have got many resources at their disposal, some of which they might not be aware of, internal resources, external resources, and part of my job as a coach is to help them to tap into those resources and identify what they are, find ways of accessing them, and find ways of making them work in their lives. So for me, it's a very hopeful card. It often makes me think actually of people who are fleeing conflict and violence, maybe fleeing domestic violence or fleeing war. I think of refugees trying to find places of safety. This is from the Tarot of Transformation. Structures for the journey, which is an interesting take on it. And a lot of the work I do outside of my tarot and coaching life, my work in the charity sector, is about social justice, it's about equality, it's about supporting people who are disadvantaged. And so, you know, in some senses, the thread that connects all of my work is helping people find the resources that they have, either available within them or around them, to move on to better and stronger places wherever they're starting from. So the Six of Swords for me is very much about that. So I always like seeing that card when it turns up in a reading, although I'm also aware that it can be pointing towards very difficult circumstances. So it's not a card to be taken lightly in that sense. Why do you practice tarot? Well, in a way I've just kind of described that. It's because for me tarot can help us synthesize things together, find solutions from disparate elements. It can help us move forward in our lives. It can help us find the next steps on our journey. And in that sense, it's very much like coaching for me. And that's one of the reasons I use those tools together. From my perspective, it works. I've seen it work. I've seen it help people. I've seen it help myself. I know that it can help. For me, it's a tool, a very useful tool, which helps me achieve the kind of results I want to achieve in my own life, and I want to help others achieve in theirs. And that's why I practice it. And also, the reason I do it in addition to conventional coaching, if you like, is that I'm very aware that sometimes it's not possible to find straightforward solutions to the problems that we deal with in life. And in fact, very often when people come for a tarot reading, of course, they're coming because they've got a problem, or they're coming because they've hit a block. And sometimes just, you know, using your mind, rationalizing won't work. It won't help you find your way through, because it may well be that you're dealing with an issue that doesn't have a rational solution. It might have a more intuitive solution or an emotional solution. It might have the kind of solution where you just kind of have to bear things out and keep going and find your way through by just going through whatever you have to go through. And tarot can be a support in that. So yeah, I practice tarot because it helps, basically. What gift would you give the world? Let me just double check that I'm picking this up right, because I want to make sure that it's I'm asking the right question. So what gift would I give the world? What was the original question? What is the gift you want to give to the world as a tarot reader? Okay, so again, maybe as I described in the previous question, for me it's about new options. It's about giving a kind of a coaching perspective on tarot, and I'll link down below a video that I did, I think again in response to Ethany's 31 Days of Tarot, about how you can combine tarot and goal setting very usefully. And you can combine tarot and lots of other coaching methods as well. So for me, that's the gift. It's about helping people to coach themselves using the tarot cards. And actually, I often think of a deck of tarot cards as being a really, really good life coach. The approach I take to tarot is I recognize that sometimes we will come to the tarot with questions and we are seeking answers. And sometimes the cards, I think, can give us very interesting prompts that can lead to answers. But for me, the tarot cards often are most useful when we remember that they also bring us empowering questions. And of course, that's what a coach does. The art of coaching is about asking empowering questions that draw positive and constructive responses out of a client. And the cards can do that as well. And in fact, one of the things I've done is I've started to compile a booklet of questions that are triggered by particular tarot cards, so that when a card appears in the reading, I'm aware of the question that it's asking. So the Six of Swords, for example, that we just discussed a moment ago, one of the questions it might ask is what resources are available to you to guide you to safety. Temperance might ask what disparate elements in your life could be combined together to construct something new and useful. So cards can come with questions as well as answers, and that's partly founded on the fact that I think that really, you know, when it comes to tarot, the answers are inside us. What the cards are a tool that help us tap into those answers. So the gift I want to give the world is a recognition that the tarot can be a useful coaching tool for anyone. Okay. This is the last question. So if you were given the chance to experience life all over again with a new major arcana as your primary narrative and worldview, which would you choose and why? So this makes me think a bit of the concept of birth cards and soul cards and personality cards, which a number of people are aware of, where you take your birth date and you work out what your card is. And I actually discussed that in a previous video where I looked at the concept of maybe even going further and using your birth time as well as your birth date. And what I found with that, in my case, if I use the normal method, I have the Chariot and I can absolutely connect with that. If I go a bit further and include my birth time, I get the Hermit and I absolutely connect with that. So the question makes me think of that, you know, what are the cards that relate to the themes in our lives? And that's one way into that conceptualization. Another way is simply to see what card you resonate with. So in terms of answering this question, thinking about what I would pick if I had to experience life all over again, it would have to be the world. And the reason for that is simply that the world, of course, in the journey of the Fool and in the sequence of the major arcana, is it's not the end of the journey, but it's the culmination of that journey before the cycle begins again, if you like. And it is about being in a position where the Fool has gone through all of the other major arcana archetypes, has travelled through them and experienced them, embodied them, been them, you know, lived them in the metaphysical sense, and has reached this position of the world where everything is balanced and everything is seen and everything is integrated and everything is whole. So the Fool has stepped out of non-duality into the world of duality, has gone along this journey, and the world is perhaps the step back into non-duality, perhaps to return into the cycle once more. In the reincarnation sense, one could look at it as the journey of life before reincarnating as another life. I tend to think of the reincarnation idea as a metaphor rather than a literal reality, but I think the metaphor has some interesting things to say to us. So for me it would be the world, and here are some world cards. And the world, in fact, in some decks is known as the universe, or you know, existence or completion. The world tree. It's a picture of a tree here. It's called the world here, but in the Greenwood Tarot it's called the world tree. And I think in the Green Witch Tarot it's called the world tree as well. Yes, for me, I guess this would have to be it. Simply because, in a way, if you get to the world in this journey, here it is in thought, it's the universe, you've got to a sense of completion in your journey. So here we are, the multi-dimensional universe, the cosmos in the Tarot of Transformation. The world in the Marielle Tarot. And yeah, here we are in Osho Zen completion. The final piece of the jigsaw. And I love that in this it looks as though what's being completed is a picture of a baby. So it's this sense of rebirth and beginning again, perhaps stepping back out into a new cycle as the Fool. So those are my answers to 5 deep tarot questions, and thank you very much, Kim, for this tag. It was an interesting one, very thought-provoking, and I'm looking forward to seeing other people's responses as well. So thanks again, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.